Freedom, a Buddhist dialogue in the modern context.
Welcome to a Poyaday discussion called Path to Freedom. We are hoping to continue on Channel I to the future as well. On Path to Freedom, we hope to highlight different aspects of Buddhism and provide an insight into such topics as history, context, and of course Dhamma itself. Now, on Path to Freedom, we will actually provide a discussion today here at Walpola Sri Rahula Institute featuring Venerable Galkande Dhammananda Thera. The Thera is here with us. Venerable Thera, welcome to our show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting.
Venerable Thera, of course, like I mentioned, we want to highlight the history, the context, and Dhamma itself. But starting off, talking about the history of Buddhism, what context was Buddhism born under?
Well, it is a very good question to start this series of dialogue. I think any religion, when you study the religion, it is very much needed to understand the context that the religion started. And it is very important to understand the particular teaching, in what context that teaching, the Buddha or any other religious leader has taught it, to whom, in what condition, that then only we can understand what that means today, for today. So Buddhism started in India in Ganga Yamuna Valley region and in 6th century BC. And it is very much needed to understand that in Indian context, Ganga Yamuna Valley region is the most wide valley region without any hill or and then fertile area. And about 1000 BC, the iron usage come to in that area at first time. Before that, it was not that, maybe the copper was used, but iron tools was started using during that time. And it is not just a simple thing to introducing iron, because with that you can make iron axes and sickles and all the other plowshare. And with that we see the spread of agriculture. And from 1000 BC to 600 BC, that is about 400 to 500 years time, the agriculture expand and the surplus production comes, and as a result we see new cities emerge, like 16 Janapada that comes in Buddhist text, and then a new class of people called Setti and Gahapati. We never saw them before, and they are very extremely rich. And even they could, invest money for the king to have army, to maintain army, and they could build huge buildings. And so, and that is one part of the economy, that city starts, trade starts, and first time we see the use of money. Even the Buddha, in several places we see that he talks about money. So money comes into usage. That punchmark coin has been found from those sites. And so in the economy, there is a huge tremendous change happening. It is not a traditional simple life now. And the urban centers, with that urban centers we see the characters like Ambapali and courtesans. And this is the change happening. And then the political level, first time monarchical state starts in the Magadh region, in a very fertile and well protected area, protected by about 5 boulders, that natural boulders, and that is where the first time the monarchical starts. And the monarchical state starts to invade the traditional oligarchical states. And then we see kind of tremendous change, and instead of clan-based property, we see private property comes. And the religious side, the traditional religion, it seems was incapable of giving interpretation, giving answers to this development and the sacrifices and all that things, you know. And there we see in Buddhist texts it says about 62 other schools of thought. We name them in Buddhist texts. The 62 Michhaditti, wrong views. Whether it is wrong or right, that is a different matter. But 62 schools mean there is a demand for such, you know, what is happening, how to understand. And the Jaina text says about 360 something schools. So all these records suggest that there was a big demand from the society to understand what is happening and how to understand this, what is the relationship, how we work, you know. And I see the Buddha and the Buddha story, we see wandering ascetics. So many wandering ascetics. They meet in public places and in the parks and they discuss. And they don't have houses, they just live under trees. And so the Buddhism emerged in such a situation, and apart from what I discussed, the caste system, that caste based, that discrimination was very high. And there are people like Settis and Gahapathis, extremely rich, and then there are people like Sopaka, extremely poor, and the disparity was so high. So this is the society that Buddhism comes and Buddha comes in such society. So this is the historical context, you know, that it is not that just Buddhism came, as traditionally we say that Buddha, you know, as part of the, you know, all the, you know, it is not that. We see there is a historical demand, and in a historical context Buddhism comes.
Right, but you know, there's also this, now this is something people have been learning, because now we know that when Buddhism came into being, Hinduism had been established in India, parts of India. And from that, after a while, after Buddhism came, people started following the Buddhist philosophy, including Emperor Ashoka. So how do you think the transformation happened? Because now they were from a background where they worshipped a deity, or like, you know, asked for wishes. They would like sort of pray for certain deities and certain beings. This transformation must have been completely different, because there's no being, like there's no deity in Buddhism. It's just a pathway. So that turnaround, how do you think that kind of transformed the Indian society in those times?
Well, yeah, that is true. The existed tradition was to believe in kind of Brahman, the creator, and then the worship and pray for such. You know, Buddhism doesn't suggest that there is something that you can expect from external something. It is you know, inner transformation, and it is you are the one who has to find the answer. So I'm sure it was not that all the people in India at that time understood or wanted to follow that message, but it seems that it spread among the community, and many followers started following, and
Maybe have been kind of controversial back then, because now it's a new thing that
yes, that's right. I'm sure, yeah, the Buddha's approach is in a way very radical, right? And not in the mean that he was going for a clash, but it is a very radical shift, because the story that Buddha meets his father, and there the first visit to his hometown, the following day Buddha goes on with the begging bowl, and he meets his father, who's the king, and the dialogue happened between these two persons, and shows kind of two traditions meeting. And king says, in my family, in my ancestors, you know, no one in family has gone for begging with the bowl. And Buddha says that may be true, but my tradition, my ancestors, you know, we have done this. So kind of huge challenge that Buddha represents, not the family or the royal traditions, but kind of you know, mendicant tradition, So, and at that time, the tendency was to, the kings were trying to spread the power, right? The Ajasatha, Bimbisara and Ajasatha, they wanted to expand power, accumulate more and more wealth and material success. And Buddha, he left his whatever came from his own family and started living under trees. Basically, Buddha lived under trees, right? And parks and trees, not in buildings. The buildings came very later in his life. And even though buildings were offered to him, he never stayed there. He temporarily stayed there, but still he continued. And his passing away happened under a tree by the road. And that we hardly understand that, because the language we use it that Buddha Mahaparinibbana happened, something like that. But what really happened was he passed away under a tree just by the road. So the whole life is a challenge to the existed value system, and so, and not only that, the community of Sangha he created, I think it is kind of sample society, while others follow all the identities, caste and material gain to hierarchically organize the society. Buddha said that this organization, there are no such hierarchy, caste based or any, it's kind of flat organization, and even the 4 or 5 monks can come together and have a discussion and change even Vinaya rules. So he didn't take the power into his hand, he devolved the power to that level. So it's a kind of revolution. And the other thing is, he was not just a professional preacher, but his life itself is the message, right? He was not just preaching and go back to the palace. He was living the life that he was, So I think still the process is happening. Maybe we are yet to achieve the society that he tried to build. But even the Asoka that you mentioned, that his edict shows once he came to know about this message, he became a totally different person. And then his edicts, even such a powerful emperor, the edict shows that he was just saying Devanampiya Dasiraja Evangaha, the king of Devanampiya says this. So it is not that normally what is it called, eulogy or something, that king Raja, the Raja, Maharaja, nothing is there. Yes. So the transformation we can see that, So I'm sure I'm yet to, even though we are living in, we name this a Buddhist country, and majority are Buddhist, it is okay to say this, with the historical development, after going through so many difficult times, in a way, we are far away from the message, and that transformation we hardly see. And so even about the Buddha's time, I am sure there were many people who understood this, and at the same time, it is possible to people to come with the attraction, that becoming someone, that Sramana Sakyaputra Gautama's pupil becomes, if it is something people, you get attraction, I'm sure that also happened. So there are, it is not always the transformation. Transformation happens, I'm sure. At the same time, this other construction, other developments happen.
You spoke of context and understanding how a religion was formed, and we need to kind of do a background check or study and understand it and then try to follow it. So not only religions, even when it comes to rules and regulations, I think there's always a context as to why that was given. So, Venerable Thera, can you, in a layman's point of view, explain the importance to our viewers, importance of knowing the context, and with some examples, if you may?
Yes, and when Buddha introduced new disciplinary rules, he never introduced them like a list of rules. You know, these are the rules that you have to follow. There is nothing. When something happened, and then he investigated what happened, and to stop such thing repeat, he introduced particular rule. And once the situation then change, and sometimes when the request come, now we cannot follow this rule because of this situation, and then Buddha changed the rule. So there are so many such wearing slippers, and then there are such rules. Several times he amend those rules. So, and during the lifetime he did that. And the last days of the Buddha, he told to Ananda, if the monks, the community agree, you can change the minor rules if you wish so. And what happened in the first council, it is very, very important point to discuss. In the first council, the monks, the 500 monks who came together to compose, the collect, and make the final version of Buddhism, they couldn't agree what is major, what is minor. And then what happened, they came at the end, they came to the decision that we will not change any rule, and we will not introduce new rule. And this is something going totally against the basic teaching of the Buddhism, that the rules are not divinely created. They are conditional according to the context, and when the context change and conditions change, you have to change. And that is the basic concept of anityata in Buddhism. And once the council decided we will not change or no new rules, that is, it is again we have to understand that decision also has taken in a context, right? Because that would have been the best option for them to go. But we have to understand that decision also has been taken in a context. And if I add more to the point, what happened after that, after 100 years of Buddhism, from the passing away of the Buddha, the whole society was changed, right? 100 years is a longer period of time, and monks in Sravasti, as I remember, yes, Sravasti, they tried to adjust to the new conditions, and then those who wanted to follow the older tradition, that they opposed that. Then there had been a kind of and then there is a rupture, there is a certain two schools started because of that. And I thank you very much for asking that question, because it is so important, and this is what happened to all the religions. And religion comes in a context, and the particular teachings are taught in a particular context to a particular person so without considering to whom this is taught or in what context, we take out the teaching and try to understand and interpret. And so in all the religions there are 3 steps, we can say. First step is the experience. One person experienced something, the Buddha experienced, the Jesus experienced something, Muhammad, and then that is the first step, experience. Second is the teaching of, the experience and teaching, you can take one. And second is to recording. And in one particular time, we record somewhere, we record it. Third step is the interpretation. And this is very important, the interpretation. And what happened in all the religions, the argument comes, you cannot interpret, you cannot give new, So it happened in Islam, I remember Babul Ijtihad Mugulak, that, in Islam there had been a tradition to interpret, scholars interpret and and then in particular time they decide again no more interpretation, door is closed for interpretation. I'm sure that decision also has taken in a context. So we have to think that that decision also has been taken in a context. So again we have to reconsider that if the context change, we do not have to abide to that decision. We have to reinterpret.
Definitely. And also, Venerable Thera, when we take what Buddha said, he always referred to Sielu Sattvayo. So it is not just something that's limited to humans, but what he preached is actually something that's relatable to every living thing. And as we experience, there's a current world is facing a cultural diversification. What we consider is right or wrong, the morality here is entirely different from another part of the world. Sometimes certain things that certain countries consume, we think it's immoral that they consume those animals and things like that. And so how can we fight, how can we tackle this challenge according to what Buddha said back in the day?
Well, this Hetupalavada, the conditional genesis theory, all these societies, what we see today is a result of the, interdependent causality, right? And we don't have any right to judge, and and this is inferior, this is superior. There should not be such judgments. However, to see the interconnectedness, we are in an environment, and even while we are having this program, there are some animals going here and there. So we are living, So it is some mistake happened. We are part of this nature. We are part of this nature, and not we are owners of this nature, right? We are part of this nature. We are sharing, and what we have to introduce, not to judge people or say you are wrong, you are right. Instead of going into the discussion to understand this interdependence, the nature of interdependence, and we are sharing. And we cannot live a life destroying the environment, and the development should not think that we have kind of physical development disregarding the nature and the rights of or disregarding the other animals who are living around. So if we are to go for a happy and a life that we can kind of better life means a life that we understand this interdependence, and then to develop a thinking that we share this. We are not owners of this. We have a right to protect everything. We have to have the right to protect the rights of living of all the other beings. And so what you suggested, that that how we work with such a society, people have different views, people have different food habits and different cultures. So what I suggest, what Buddhism suggests, that Buddhism doesn't say this is the truth and this is what you have to follow. It is not there. But Buddhism suggests kind of a pathway towards inclusive a solution. So what I think, to go into the dialogue, go into the discussion, and it is okay for you to be like that, and okay for me to, but how to develop kind of society or environment that both of us and the other living beings can live. So I think that is how. It is not that always we have to refrain from judging. And you have the right, you have, you think that particular way because of some reasons, that historical reasons. So let's go into dialogue, and then we will have, even in dialogue, I will transform, right? It is not that I'm going to transform the other person, but in that dialogue, we both will transform, and we both will come to a certain level that we both can develop a society that we all can live.
Venerable Thero, you spoke about how different context in different times the religion changed and the 100 years. Now, of course, Dhamma being recorded, how did the Dhamma canon we know now come to be?
Well, during the time of the Buddha never, no one recorded what he was teaching, and it is Ananda Thero in a later stage of Buddha's life started collecting, and he always wanted Buddha to come and tell him what he taught somewhere. So he in a way collected. And once the Buddha passed away, the fear came that whether the new interpretations will come, and even those monks who knew what Buddha taught will, with the time, So they came together, they decided to collect the teaching. So came the first council after 3 months from the passing away of the Buddha. And in that council, 500 monks, including Ananda Thera, they came together and they spent around 3 months collecting, whatever they, they collected the teaching and then composed it. That is what almost all the sutras starts with, "Thus I heard." That part of comes from Ananda's mouth. That "Thus I heard." It is Ananda says, "This is how I heard," and then they composed it. They collected it and divided among the monks, and orally they agreed to teach their students. That is how it started, and it is very beautiful in Sri Lanka. When you see the 3rd century, 2nd century cave inscriptions, there are names of monks: Diga Banaka Tisha, Majjhima Banaka Sumana, Ekuttara Banaka so and so. That means Diga Banaka means one who is expert on Diga Nikaya, and Majjhima Banaka one who is expert on Majjhima. So they collected them and then they categorized them. Those teachings, longer sutras, are put into the Diga Nikaya. Those sutras in long discourses, and then the middle size discourses. So that is how they categorize, and then certain, if it is we are in the council, we agree, okay, I will, carry on this part of the, collection, I will teach my pupil. So that is how it started coming, orally, not written. And it came up till 3rd council in 3rd century BC during the Ashoka's time, and that is where the final formation happened. Before that we don't see Abhidhamma Pitaka, and Abhidhamma Pitaka also introduced in the 3rd council. Then it became 3: Sutra, Vinaya, Abhidhamma, and then the main discourses and disciplinary rules, and then Abhidhamma, and then when during the time that 3rd century BC, or the Buddhism introduced to Sri Lanka, so all these what is decided in 3rd council and what they that came to Sri Lanka.
So just a follow-up question, what were the period durations between the councils, the 1st, 2nd and 3rd?
Well, 1st council happened 3 months after the passing away. 2nd council happened 100 years. Okay, and then the 3rd council something like 280 or 300 years. So that is the gap. Yeah.
Right. Venerable Thero, this also links to the current context. Now, this is something that everybody says. Now, there are also a certain group of people who would follow the Buddhist philosophy. There's also a part of people who would just follow Buddhism as a way of rituals and all these ways of going to the temple and observing and all those number of other things that they have enlisted for themselves. How do you think this change happened? Do you think the way that the Buddhism was fractured in the middle when it comes to different Nikayas has influenced this kind of practice in Sri Lanka, especially in Sri Lanka, because now I mentioned about how Hinduism had a basement in the beginning, but now it seems that all these ritualistic the accepts have actually re-emerged in the current society, because you see different kinds of ways that people will go worship. How does that, what's your view on that?
That's a very good question. And you know, once Buddhism was introduced to Sri Lanka, it was Theravada school of Buddhism, right? And different schools started in India. After Second Council, Mahayana Buddhism started. That means Mahayana Buddhism is not something different, something totally away, but you know, different branch of Buddhism. But it was kind of rivalry at the same when it happens, right? Even in present day it happens when a political party split and then they become the enemy and not their own enemy before. So in Buddhism also this Theravada and Mahayana were the rivals that and in India there were Mahayana philosophers like Nagarjuna, Vasubandhu, Dinnaga, Aryadeva. They wanted to, what we talk about interpretation. They went for, very subtle way looking at the teaching. But this elders tradition, that is Theravada, they in a way decided not to change, right? To protect it. So they in a way protected it. And the first level of change happened of Sri Lankan Buddhism when Mahayana Buddhism started coming into Sri Lanka. This Theravada school wanted to protect their school and to eliminate that new school. And when you read Deepavansa and Mahavansa, you see the Deepavansa and Mahavansa, when they write the historical narrations of the country, it is very subtle manner, it is included there. This is the true Buddhism, and this is the people of this island has to protect this. So these teachings come. I mean, today we don't have Mahayana rival, and we cannot understand why. And sometimes we think that this is talking about present day the other religions. No, it is that context these things come, and the kind of rivalry Mahayana Buddhism comes, and older school wanted to protect that. And today one change that you suggest, that you will see among the monks there is a kind of strong feeling that we have to protect this instead of practicing it, instead of how to introduce practical models to solve our problems. Instead of that, we go into protection. This protection idea comes from that, again, context, right? In that context, they have introduced these things. We have to protect this, and this is the true, and we are the people. Even in Deepavansa, it says Buddha after enlightenment, just after enlightenment, he look around where my teaching will be protected, and Deepavansa says Buddha saw Sri Lanka, and the people here, they are the people who are going to protect. That much. It is not there in Buddhist texts, but Deepavansa, which was written in Sri Lanka, this is included. That because of, so one aspect of, present day Buddhism in Sri Lanka, one problem we have to deal with is how to deconstruct this idea that we are the protectors. In Buddhism, nothing to protect, and what to protect, right? And this protection is totally contrary to the Buddhism. So this is one area. Second is the ritual part. Ritual comes again in a context, right? And there are very good rituals as well. And when someone passed away, we have a very good way of healing. And when passed away, we for 3 days, we display the body. We do not cover it. And we see the body, right? And then we, in the night sometimes, we get the chance to go to the person, and sometimes we all have unfinished stories, right? Unfinished things with the person. So we can tell with him, okay? So that part is there. Second, people start coming, and we cannot hide somewhere and lament. We have to come forward and eyeball, and then the person asks what happened. We have to tell the story. So 100 times we tell what happened. That is kind of relieving the person. And then monks come, and when they do the rituals, the religious part, within short period of time, we do three things, that dana sila bhavana, that we offer something to the Buddha and we take 5 precepts, and people they listen carefully, mindfully, anicca, the anicca, sankhara and all that. And after that, the monk says, you did all the 3 meritorious acts here. Now let's pass that merit to the deceased person. And empty cup and a jar full of water, right? And this empty cup represents the person who deceased, who passed away. And this one represents all of us. And the water inside it is the merit that we accumulated. And after that, we all come together and hold that, and then we pour it to the empty cup until it overflows. And we see it, right, that the empty cup overflows. And one who is in such a trauma, and he or she sees the visually what is happening. And then the monk says, now see, he got it. Okay, I think these rituals are so nice and therapeutic, right? Yeah, therapy. Yes. So those are okay. But what happened? We should not taken away and think that these rituals are the Buddhism. That is the mistake. And if I tell you, when I was with Venerable Rahula, Valpula Rahula, my mentor, he was born in 1907 and passed away in 1997. And he told me when he was young, there was no something called Bodhi Puja. That day it was very difficult for me to understand. I was in a way argued with him, no, Bodhi Puja is part of Buddhism. And he said, no, in my childhood, we went with the family, we went to the stupa, we offer flower and then worshipped and pay our respect, and went to the Bodhi, and again we paid our respect, and then to the image house, paid our respect. We never asked from the image or the stupa or from the Bodhi that please help to recover my illness or to pass the exam. That never happened. So this Bodhi Puja came into existence within last 70 to 50 years time. So we can understand if that kind of ritual come into the today's Buddhism. At now, even for me, it felt that it is Buddhism, and it is not something new. And to understand, I think for 2,600 years time, how many such rituals has come into the Buddhist practice, and in a way, we have missed the core teachings of the Buddhism, and we all are comfortable doing rituals. So I think this is what we have to think of. And you ask about the interconnectedness and how to work with other communities. I think these are the problems that we have to deal with, how to develop practical models, answers, and with the nature, our connect, that healing myself. What is there in Buddhism to heal myself and heal the community? What is there to heal the community? And third, healing with the environment. And we know always we are with the kind of disagreement, with the environment. How to heal our connection with environment. So it is for us to bring, instead of, I'm sure all these rituals also have come in a context, and they are not divinely created forever to practice. And to understand, it has come in a context, whether that ritual is still valid. If it is not valid, there is nothing we have to, and then to reintroduce or give a new interpretation. So, yeah.
Add to that, Venerable Thera, back in the day of the Buddha, he himself told that it's okay to question and to kind of suspect and to go through that investigation. And he told his disciples back in the day as well. And as far as this path to freedom, it is on a worldly level at least, it's a personal experience.
Yeah.
And Sri Lanka being a country where we don't seek Buddhism, we are born into it. Sometimes we teach children from very young age where they haven't even comprehended the gravity of what life is, what an ego is, what is navigating through life with an identity of yourself. So do you believe there's a time for everyone, their own personal time to learn it, instead of a system that kind of spoon feeds or kind of actively try to teach on kind of a factual level?
Yes, I think it is, as you suggested, we all are born into a religion, a religious culture, and through all the means, all the media, they are trying to make, instead of, I think, from Buddhist point of view, Buddha's point of view, the freedom to think, freedom to decide is very much needed. So once you make someone Buddhist, I mean, you are Buddhist, and I think it is, after that you lose that freedom. You lose that freedom of mind to think. So my view is, please keep children free and let them to understand all the religions, if they, as a teaching for their knowledge, and for them to decide when they are, when they grow up into certain level, to see what is fit for you, and that is what there in Buddhism, come and see, ehipassika, that is there. And what is the point if you cannot take decisions when you see something, then there is no point of asking you come and see, right? If it is, you have to believe. So it is very much needed to keep it open, and keep it open for questioning, investigating, critically analyzing. That is very much needed. So for that, we have to keep it open without making kind of, what is it called, indoctrinate, kind of, this is what you have, no, keep them free. And even if parents can follow a religion and keep children free, this is what I follow, and I feel this is okay for me, this helps me. If you think one day, you can decide.
Venerable Thero, we hope to continue the discussions on future Poyadays as well. And with that, like I said, we have to wind up today's edition of Path to Freedom. We will join you next time. Till then, have a blessed Poyaday.